Hello, welcome back to Project Incenssion. I'm your host, Andrew Mallet, and we are here with Pattie Brassard and Karen Ann Lucyk MacDonald, 13th White Bear Clan mother, for a quick update of a lot of rumors going around today. Come on in, both of you, and tell them what's going on.
Well, I'll let Pattie actually maybe start, because that's where a lot of the, I got some calls into my Facebook and stuff just about people concerned that there's supposedly with these crop circles in August 6th, is going to be something major coming down. We're going to have maybe martial law within a couple of weeks. We got the Neil Keegan stuff being done with the elders supposedly in the gold, and Neil Keegan's supposedly taking over administration of the 400,000 tons of gold. So that's come down the pipes. And then again today, there's some stuff to do with Steve Olson, and it has to do with people being concerned that they see something in between us eclipsing the solar gate, or the sun as they call. So we're just gonna have Pattie update people then. And then I'll talk a little bit about Attacky Coop and what's been going up there from a esoteric paranormal treaty breach, law breach.
Well, I mean, and I've told them, you know, everybody this before, all these little green dots, okay, these are planets that are in our system that don't belong here. So yeah, there's a whole shitload of them. But that's nothing unusual. And one passing between us and the sun, yeah, it's going to look like an eclipse. So don't freak out. There's nothing to freak out over. Here's the bunch of them are back up in the meeting, as you can see here.
Can you address the Blue Kachina and positions of that too as well, please?
Yeah, just a minute. Hang on, let me rotate this back where you can see our sun and Kachina. Yeah, oh, too far. Here's our sun, there's the Kachina. This reacts real herky-jerky when I'm sharing it. Click on this, see that's our sun. The sun, click on this, and it gets its catalog designation. K2. K2 Boo.
And this again is classified information, right?
That's the catalog designation for it. K2 Boo. Blue Kachina. And it's sitting out by want to get to the actual planet that's sitting by. Let's see. I want just let me shut some of these extra stuff off. So the constellations. Want just cardinal points.
The other thing today too, I was just going to bring to people's attention, there's a lot of stuff to do with David Wilcock, and talk about Mimas, and actually all the ones in Russia with the again giants in stasis, that they found these people that look like they're basically sleeping and in stasis chambers ready to resurrect or awake too. So that was released again by David Wilcock just
That's
today.
This Mercury. That's Venus. Leo. This is Jupiter. And it's got a bunch of exoplanets out there with it.
And the one that looks like a second sun, that's the Blue Kachina?
Yeah, that's the Blue Kachina. This one here, that's I mean, it's when I click my It's being a pain in the butt. Not selecting it now. All right. You zoom out. That's right there. Nope. No, I want to select it again. Yeah, it's the Blue Kachina, and this is our sun here. As you see, our planets are labeled.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff up there between us and the sun. As you see, this is live. It's moving. It shows these are little moving deals here with the lines through them. Those are our satellites. And this is the stuff, the blue lines and whatnot. That's the stuff that's in orbit around Earth and its orbital path. Zoom out. North back to north, west to west. The before the council was up here in Galactic Northeast, and they're currently the meeting has moved south. There's one meeting down here, one group here, and the other one's still up. Come on, stop it. Up rotating. Trying to zoom out. Doesn't want to zoom out. The other meeting is up here. It's still up.
Now, some of the interesting things too, I've noticed too, I'm just watching some of the Antarctica and the South Pole and the space station, I should say, the South Pole station there, Amundsen Scott. We noticed it's still on fire, and it looks really hazy, like there's possible figures down there. So there could be a lot of stuff in conjunction with this too going on.
Oh, see, the meeting has moved.
Now, it's interesting. I wanted to point out that while I've been up at Takakuk, north of Saskatoon, about 2 hours, it's the Niwak Cree Nations there by Canwood, by Debden and Spiritwood up that way. And that's actually where the North Saskatchewan River's been polluted with the oil spill that got released of the Husky oil thing. So, you know, we've been encouraging people to go back to getting spring water, but it's something I wanted to bring to people's attention. They've been seeing lots and lots of UFOs and lights all over, to the point I've seen them up there now too, and heard psychotronic noises, artificial brain damaging frequencies. And these crucifixes, which at least in some areas, the areas they've been actually just chopping them down or burning them. These are acts of war and treason, and they're a curse upon the indigenous peoples out here in tribes. So we got all sorts of things happening here too, people. Almost everyone, put it this way, there isn't someone I haven't talked to up there in the last 2 months that has not been a contact, the experiencer, or seen something. Okay, so that's really interesting, and I've heard stuff too. So there's been green lights and blue lights. We've been seeing actually exoplanets, and obviously some sort of, they're not like UFOs, but as people think that. I mean, incredible people I've looked after and got to know in for the last couple months up there. And, you know, it's a degradation. I mean, the people that are supposedly these band chiefs, which are illegal and unlawful, negates the clan mothers and treason, they've been, you know, absconding a lot of money. You can see where the rich palatial stuff is, and the rest of the people are in tragedy, barely, you know, surviving here. There's a huge discrepancy at Sandy Lake there, just from one end across the lake to the other, and how these different things have been rigged up, you know, and how the same people and different people like the Hennekees and stuff have been running these different rigged elections, which are not supposed to be doing that. That's why they're classified as prisoner of wars. So a lot of this has to do with burying. These are sacred sites, and we now see a lot of these things actually hovering over, almost protecting that. So we've got Sasquatch stories there, and 2-foot little people, and now they've got a 12-foot bark tree man, and, you know, cloning, and people that appeared to be a friend of mine, but it wasn't her because she doesn't make bannock. I do have a few people that are kind of vegetarian raw foods up there. trying to educate people, like, bread is not Elmer's glue, which is white flour and piss. But I just wanted to get that like really straight to what's been going on. But I've been seeing, different things up there as well and hearing stuff. And there are usually several of us there. So, and actually right where I was staying, right where the cabin was, is actually the hillside where all the UFOs were going into, a portal or a Stargate. And it's interesting because I've been on some mountains and stuff that may actually be pyramids. And what looks like when David Wilcock was talking today about those gates in the cities and the walled cities, that this may have been a tribal mound, like the serpent mound and stuff. So that's what we're looking up there for too. So resetting up our tribal governments there. And it's nice to see the women are slowly coming on board too. Yeah. Look at the amount of exoplanets there, hey Patty?
Yeah. There's them having their stupid meetings.
Now, it's interesting because people could be like contracted, right? I've got a lot of people that, abductees and stuff like that or things like that. So they could be contracted or depending on how they're going to do things here. So it doesn't look like it's really changed a lot here in a couple of weeks. And I don't think, I know with the crop circles, I was looking at Red Colleen putting that on. They figure there's an ETA coming of this Saturday, August the 6th, but something's always coming down the road exciting. So,
yeah.
I mean, with the count that was done, the exoplanets in the system, there's 397 of them.
Right.
But I mean, that's, the count that they had at that point in time. There's always more coming in and out of the gate. So, it's not a permanently static number. There's people coming and going.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see.
When you start looking at these amount of planets and people that are here, whether extraterrestrials or alien, it's interesting that I've actually done a whole bunch of people actually up on these areas. And there's many supposedly red people that are red Indians, but they're actually RH negative, or they've been implanted and stuff too. So it's amazing.
Yeah,
people are not what they appear to be, so don't assume someone has stuff here. And that was part of the thing that we had the original tribes here. I thought that was interesting today. We put it up here. And if you look at it, it was I Love Russia, but you saw the Russian indigenous tribes and you actually see them, with their hand drums and everything else.
Right.
It wasn't that different. And those were some of the actual first tribes that were laid down on the planet. A lot of the areas out here, Cree and stuff, they came somewhat after, and we can show that over the different migration times and star nations. Which is interesting because Atakakut means star blanket or star nations, like a gathering spot.
Interesting. What are we looking at, Patty?
This one shows the energy without the shield. That's coming right off the sun.
Yeah.
We got
you don't see anything to be worried about?
Fast-moving craft and.
So nothing to be worried about, right?
No.
What was the eclipse on the other channel then?
Yeah, I know. When I tried to do that, it crashed. So
yeah,
I'll have to go and pull the link up again. Let's see what else I can.
I do want to stress there's been a lot of different things too with solar flares and everything else too, but for people to make sure they're alkaline and getting on spring water and making sure they got lots of tree oils. I'm all about the trees these days, so it's lemon, lime, orange. It's a tree, chocolate, frankincense, myrrh. If it's a tree, it's safe to eat these days.
Still blocking other people from looking at Lasco, huh?
See, this is interesting too, right? So
that's what they won't show. They've got the public one shut down. Let's see. Yeah.
So this is basically so that people aren't in fear or getting all concerned over nothing. I mean, when they don't have information, that's what creates fear. You know, and again, some people are trying to harvest here for that loosh and the metagene factor, right?
Right.
If you keep people like in peace and relax, they're out of the Draco bug food, you know, dietary cuisine, smorgasbord.
What are we looking at here, Patty?
That's a C3.
A lot of traffic.
Yeah, there's a lot of traffic out there, but slow feed, slow it down to 1. Something
Yeah.
right there.
Pretty big ship.
I mean, something that size turned on its side. If it's a disc shape, it might not even been a exoplanet that crossed in front. It could have been just one of the big ass ships.
Mm-hmm.
Like our moon, which isn't very close to the Earth, actually. It is just the right size to completely eclipse the sun when seen from the surface of Earth. Ooh, we had something big going right there. Let's go reverse. Step, 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 step. Oops. Ah, that's another Draco's getting his ass kicked.
Yeah. Pieces parts flying off, looks like.
Yep.
So people that are listening to this video and watching other other YouTube channels and saying, "Oh, well, are we alone, or do you think the ships are already home?" They're out here 24/7, 365.
Yeah.
You know, you can. There's that question isn't even relevant anymore. Is are we alone? It's, you know, there's 300. What'd you say, Patty? 395 exoplanets in our own.
Well, the last count was 397.
And everyone,
Full planetary bodies.
and you got to remember, few people have had the opportunity, like Patty has had in special operations in the U.S. Freedom Team and stuff, that actually have encountered and actually were sent because they've been in battles with the aliens or whatever, if you want to say. These people have actually survived combat with them.
Right.
Now, if you look here, this is what I was talking about. Okay, now this looks kind of sort of like Saturn. Okay, got a ring around it. It's only there one frame.
Right.
Each one of these frames is only 22 milliseconds. Okay, and there's an average of 12 minutes between frames, roughly. That's what this camera does. It's an exoplanet.
Right. Right.
Right there. It's only in one frame. That's how fast they move around.
Can you tell what it is just from that distance, or?
That's an exoplanet.
Yeah, I mean, I was more or less whose, but no, right?
Well, it's going to be one of the Council of 12s, because I mean they're the ones that brought them all in.
Okay.
Council of 12, for people that don't know.
Andromeda Council.
Thank you. So you can always look up Andromeda Council. It's not like there's a lack of information. Just Google. Yeah, that's what we were talking about.
I'll step one single frame, and you'll see one step. That's how fast they can move around. But most people don't understand how our planets and our solar system actually move. And again, I can't reiterate this enough. Here's the truth about how we move. Okay? What they teach you at school about solar system is grossly, bogusly wrong. This is our actual, this is the sun in the middle and the path of all the planets around it. So if you think about any planetary body coming in on a flat direct, a ballistic trajectory hitting us, you can forget it.
Right.
There's another. This is what they teach you in school.
Right. Flat disk.
It's bogusly wrong.
Our solar system moves like a dance.
Yeah.
Ballroom
This
dance.
is just bogusly wrong.
Right. Right.
This is the correct way.
I noticed David Wilcock was talking today a lot about Mimas and actually the Death Star. Can you touch a little bit on that, please?
Mimas is where they got the idea for the Death Star. They look exactly alike.
Right.
Now, on some of the timelines, we don't have this moon. You got to understand that our moon was originally one of the moons of Tiamat. But Tiamat got destroyed before humans were brought here from Eden, where Gaia made us. But Gaia raised 15 other classes of other beings on this planet before she brought us through.
Right.
So there are a lot of legends out there, and historical stuff, brought forth, that's been carved in stone and all kinds of other stuff that says that talks about having two moons at some point. But yeah, Mimas is the other moon they're talking about. And I'll show you a picture of Mimas.
It's really funny because all the stuff Patty's been disclosing, or we've all been jointly doing that, is that I just see they're starting to slowly release disclosure to people. So
They're starting to do this crap again, bringing up that pop-up.
So it's interesting, even looking at these tribal mounds and serpent mounds and stuff too. I keep thinking, oh my gosh, did I get to find someone in stasis there? And we know there's a lot of people that have been living in stasis, even like soldiers and stuff too.
Right.
Yeah.
Mimas was right front and center on that gate that they opened. It's doing this thing again, popping that thing up every 2 minutes. See?
Mm-hmm.
How Mimas has that big black spot in it?
Right.
I'll show you an actual picture of Mimas. Is this. See? Looks just like the Death Star.
Right.
Lapidus, which is another moon out there, but it's actually the Draco's temple, looks similar as well. The only difference is Lapidus is actually octagon. It's got another big spot, and it's got a ridge going all the way around it. There's big towers and everything sticking off of it and stuff. These are all in orbit around Saturn. If you look at it in shadow, you can see it's an artifact. It's an artificial moon.
Right.
Mm-hmm. That was interesting. He was showing some of the on you shown too, almost like the skeletal blueprints actually seen within there, like almost like using LiDAR and stuff too.
Now you see this. People are digging up a lot of these artifacts. These are little gold artifacts that they're finding in ancient remains here, which says almost categorically that it was in orbit at one time because these little things were made up to look like them.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's a lot of it's hollow. The mass isn't right. You know, there's a lot of issues.
Yeah, big time issues.
But from what I understand, it's Iapetus is a Draco's temple. Iapetus is this one. It's at 60 radius, and it's got its own odd orbit around Saturn, whereas Mimas is in the regular, you know, orbital path.
Right.
Iapetus is offset in a much wider orbit. This is not that. If you see something that looks like this, this is what the Anunnaki drive. Okay, that's when it was actually in orbit around Earth. It's what you call a reverse Dyson sphere,
Is
and it's not that big.
in size comparison, what would it be to our moon? For perspective.
Maybe 1/10.
Okay.
So it could not, even that could not have done the eclipse.
Right.
His models of it, the New World Order group got them all around the place. Because they're in league with the Anunnaki. When it was in orbit, there's a clear picture of it from the ground. That's how big it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a planetoid. It's not even as big as Pluto.
Wow.
This is the best picture I've got. This is taken from Illinois.
That's the same one?
Yeah. That's the Dyson, the Anunnaki Dyson sphere. I had up another one in another directory that's when it was parked over that ET prison that Putin's got. I guess they were going to try and stage a breakout. They didn't get it. They didn't do it though. And this is a Draco ship, similar to what we saw out there today. This is a closer up satellite watching one of them blow up. I like seeing those blow up.
Yeah.
This is the Arden spiral. This is the one that they're finally talking about now. But yeah, that's shut down. Those gates are shut down. There's 3 of them.
What caused that?
There's 3 gates down there, and for a while they rushed every ship from every nation was there guarding these 3 gates. You see the warships out there.
Yes.
They've busted up the gate dial and backfilled the gates with sand. This is when they were still working. But yeah, they redirected the river, started here, got sand and everything washed out, and backfilled all 3 of the gates. That was their own stupidity, really.
Yeah.
As you see here, that patent that they put on the Voyager satellite that went way the hell out there about humanity, they got this a response, okay? And this was a crop circle.
Right.
You overlay it over to the gate dial system they had down there. They built this per the instructions. So what they got, they deserved. Because as soon as they finished building those gates and this gate dial and set it like that, they opened up and shit came through and started attacking them. So, you know, that's, you know, their own stupidity. What do you do with that, right?
Right.
And what's going to be interesting, just so you know, Andrew, Patty and myself will be opening up on Friday at 1700 British Standard Time, GMT. Or
actual
August 12th and 13th, coming up that weekend at the Basis Project out of Wilshire. So I just want to let you know that Patty's being recognized, and so am I, for all the international stuff. So we're opening up actually for Miles Johnston. So I decided to let you know if anyone wants to get ready for that. That's going to be in 2 weeks.
And that should be really good.
Oh, it's going to be amazing. And I've got Chris Keeler to do. He's out of Winnipeg. And I've got other couple shows that we'll be doing as well myself. So, and we'd like to get more things out with you as well. So we've got a lot of shows coming up here. So I'm just like, okay, it's going to be August the 12th thing.
Full schedule. Go ahead, Patty.
This is the shot where they were starting to backfill them in. They still had the military ships there, but they were starting to push sand out there to backfill them in. There's other stuff there as well. There's this here, the triangle above it. This is part of the powering system for it. Yeah, that's what it is. I mean, that basically tapping the Merkaba to do, you know, gate jumps. And this is what they had out there, the Gulf of Aden.
One of the other things I'll bring up too is we've also, the things too will be also the weekend, that same weekend on the Friday night, but during the week, that same weekend on the 12th and 13th, we'll be also at the, I've been invited to the Awareness Life Expo, and there'll be people also like Jimmy Church from Fade to Black, and also the co-host of Coast to Coast. So I've been invited by Aaron Dadmer as well. So that's going to be another great one as well.
Yeah.
Busy week. Busy weeks coming up.
Now, this is the biggest one that came in with our second son, and at the same time with Nibiru. This, I call it the Hat Planet. This gas giant here is 4.5 times the size of Jupiter. This is the one that camps out right by the sun gate. And as you can see here, this is a line of exoplanets coming in through via the gate in our sun, exiting out. And I've got another picture of them lining up in formation when they, you know, as they came in. So,
Go ahead, Karen.
No, I was just to say, Patty, a lot of people are always questioning stuff too. We know this is part of the secret space program, block operations and stuff, and again, classified information, which is now being slowly disclosed out to the people. But why are people not allowed to really leave this planet? I mean, we know that they're not really, they can't even look after themselves. That, you know, we've just about seen the planet go down because they're not adhering to, you know, peace laws here. And definitely not, I think, up to the galactic, you know, beings, you know, of peace out there. So what would be your other explanation? You know, because obviously people are being contacted, or what they will want to say. I don't know.
well, they're not by the real council. They're being contacted by Zetas and whatnot who've been here right along and
Right.
selling them a load of bullshit.
And I want to point out, just if you see right next to that plating woman in the Octarian ship, right next to it is, these are some of the, you know, 15 to 20 to 30 foot beings.
Now,
And some of
this
them,
is the ancient L. It's 65 feet, as you can see. That's who we were modeled on. That's the DNA that Gaia borrowed. She used DNA from these beings, DNA from herself, to upgrade the great apes that she you know, fashioned and raised here on Earth over the time she was raising the other 15 classrooms and let them evolve. And then she took the ovum from the great apes, used DNA from herself and from the ancient elves, or the ancients, that's these 65-foot tall folks. The other ones got Nibiru, by the way. She upgraded the ovum from the great apes with both her own genetics and the ancient elves. And then on the male side of the equation. 12 of the 15 races she raised here before us for other student gods and goddesses from around the galaxy. 12 of the 15 of them that she helped raise provided seed stock.
So basically, it's like having almost 12 alien fathers, right?
We were designed to humans were designed to all interbreed to come up with the final stock.
Right.
You know, the final product that can ascend on its own. Now, here's the thing. Of the 30% of humanity that's left on this planet walking around, of that 30%, only 8% is actual Homo simian sapiens that needs to ascend. The rest of us are Homo avatar sapiens, and you're not going to ascend because you were born to an ascended planet, ascended parents, and you're down here in class. I have an avatar body.
Which is funny because
you don't ascend because you're already an ascended being. So.
Right.
Which is funny because we dealt with people today that felt they were alien, or they've had, actually it's been interesting up at Takaku, because I've got people that are RH positive, supposedly having children that are RH negative. I said, can't be.
No, that's artificial insemination.
Right, and we got to remember that a lot of that is to do with that. So I mean, these people are walking around in Indian reserves or bands and tribes, and they're not even Indian to start with. It's kind of like having a clone.
Now, these people that all talk about, Nephilim and all this and that, this is the Nephilim.
Yeah.
This is a human being here. This is the Nephilim. Okay. The Nephilim are nothing but a slave race to the Anunnaki.
Right.
That's all it is. And they did all the manipulation to make them the Nephilim. This is an original 3 legs. Okay. This is the hard data. So thinking on the Nephilim or our creators or any of that other garbage is just BS. Which
is when people start to tell me, and they said, we're elders. Well, no, things were appointed and councils were appointed by clan mothers, and elders and Elvin and, the whole El and the Elohim are not anything we want to be like having to do with or supposedly proud of. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Also, the Cabal
wants an Anunnaki.
Yeah, exactly.
And the main difference when you look at an Anunnaki is look where the hips, where the leg bones socket in. The pelvic flare is in front, not behind like humans. There's all kinds of differences. Jaw, head, the skull, where the jaw mounts, the bone structure, the rib structure. There's all kinds of differences. They are not our creators. They are not our forebearers, although they did sort of jack over a bunch of the African folks. The Dracos would not let these folks interbreed directly with humans because it would put the 3rd spiral back that the Dracos ripped out way back at the start.
Right.
Because the Anunnaki are triple spiral, like us.
And having said that,
that's not to say that they didn't go ahead and make any anyway, because they did. We've got the skeletons from...
having said that, this is the Selmac, which is the Turkoflaska, and also the pastulate, saltopastulate at soccerbit.com. People can get to start putting those triple spirals or ascending to get their triple spiral back into place.
This is what you get when you cross an actual human and an Anunnaki, which they weren't supposed to do, but they did a few times anyway. But look at the tail.
Right. Mm-hmm. What I was going to say before is this is what the Cabal, the Illuminati, wanted to do, a slow drip disclosure.
Right.
There are so many of us doing our own disclosures now. We don't need them. I mean, there's so much information out there now. You have to be in a cave if you're not up to date.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because I met people that were supposed to be into these tribes and stuff like that up there, Indians saying that they're part of the Cabal. And I'm like, you can't even genetically. But the other thing, too, is that a lot of these people are not even indigenous. They're not tribal. And they were actually developed as a watered down, i.e. slave race. That's why they are still classified as a band is considered an Indian reservation is considered a prisoner of war camp, an inhabitant.
Yeah.
You know, which is, you know, Green Berets and stuff like that, you know, like Sequoia True Blood out of Calgary and stuff. We know a lot of that if people have been like, you know, Pattie too, that was, you know, Micmac, but brought in, you know, doing stuff for NASA and the Army and stuff. And the
now
freedom.
these elongated head jobbers, now because the Dracos wouldn't let the Anunnaki breed with humans directly, and the Dracos had taken over the Zetas' homeworld from behind the scenes, what they did is they had the Anunnaki and the Zetas procreate together to come up with another race. This race, that's your Zionists. That's the folks that are camped out at the South Pole.
Yeah.
But you got to understand that at the end of the time in Egypt, we actually revolted and kicked the Anunnaki right off this planet entirely. So the Zionists were still left. Now the Zionists, they crossbred with the Lemurians.
Right.
The whole, I hate to say this, but the so-called Holy Bible is nothing but the holy book of lies. It doesn't mean there isn't some truth in there, but the way they present it is a lie.
Right. It's been edited.
Well, and I'm just going to use what I saw. Yeah.
There's a reason I need to say this is because the Lemurians, when the Martian and the Lemurians sunk Atlantis, they came ashore. The whole trek through the desert, you know, for 40 years, that whole bit that it claims in the Bible, that wasn't even done by humans. Okay? Moses was not human. It was a Lemurian. And they were following the Zeta spaceship. And the reason for that was so that the hybrid offspring, their seed and their ovum from them, the Zionists, they artificially inseminated that whole crew that was going through the desert. That was done to create a isolated breeding group that eventually got bred with humans, primarily the Africans, basically. That's why the African Americans are generally taller than everybody else.
No, one of the things I thought was interesting when you talk about Moses and Tutmosis and stuff like that is actually one of the people I, you know, was visiting and being assisted with, you know, Ray and Kathy Muscopow and stuff like that. But when you take MUSA, it's Moses. I said, do you realize the derivative of where you come and where you begat? But again, we go through loss on your mother's mitochondrial DNA. And it's just a problem. People don't know. They've been so interbred, it's worse than Hutterite colonies up here. You know? We got cousins marrying cousins and everything else. And I mean, we got messes up here. We have to straighten out everyone's DNA. And that's why you can trace it. Almost everyone that went into these positions in bands and reserves, and you can trace the bloodline. So-and-so is the sister of this. So, you know, they look different, but when they say, well, no, you know, they've kept, like, PQ was, you know, actually Muscopow is back there. So I'm getting this slowly straightened out. But, I mean, this is ridiculous what's going on. And, like, there was this little mountain up there where they're doing an unholy crucifix. And these guys were up there drunk, stoned, apparently doing coke, putting up an Anglican church, which children were, apparently someone was killed at years ago. And they're flashing this in sync with the HARP towers. And these are microwaving towers, like smart meters. There's only a few, but almost most of them have smart meters. So when the girls wrote and stuff too, she's been, you know, Tyler, they were actually I got through to them, they're actually making covers for the smart meters. You know, got them on spring water. I mean, it's one step at a time, you know?
Right.
Here is, at 20 days, the cardiac bulge here, that's where, if you're going to be a Homo avatar sapiens, that's where your uplink gets connected, right there. Once it's connected, the fetus folds over and hides it. And that develops the stem of your brain and everything else. If you don't have uplink, if you're not an avatar, then your hindbrain and your forebrain are directly linked together, and they do well with Thor. That's why you have a hindbrain.
This is also why they want to give vaccinations to pregnant mothers to kill these.
Yeah.
Or again, women that are Rh negative trying to deliver Rh positive. I mean, let's face it, they're going to give you Winrow or Rogan like an alien vaccine to stop the killing.
Well, it took the Dracos until 1617 to come up with a fix to get around the RH issue. Took them that long. That was one of the protective items put into us originally by Gaia.
Right. We did a whole hour and a half, 2 hour video on DNA.
Yeah, absolutely.
Extension.
Now, the other interesting thing is the whole pharaoh issue and all that. No, that's not what I wanted. The Muslim religion is not a human religion; it's Martian.
Right.
And the funny thing is, the god and goddess of the Muslim religion, okay, are these brother and sister types made by the Anunnaki. That's the god and goddess of the Muslim religion. That tells you how fake the whole thing is.
Yeah.
And that really does sound like
Muhammad was a Martian.
That's what we're seeing, like Trudeau, and then even here when I was by PA, they were all, oh my gosh, they brought in like thousands of like Muslims and stuff, and from Syria and stuff. This is not humans.
You look at the pelvis.
These
That's not human.
natives.
Pelvis aren't human. It says, it's Anunnaki.
Yeah.
And that's why the reason why they were all messed up is because the Anunnaki went to the Tudor group of that time, which is Queen Elizabeth's lineage, to get some Elven DNA, because the Queen Elizabeth, the Tudor group, back then are the ones who started the human Elven hybrids out in Ireland.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason they did that is because when the Dracos removed our third spiral, that's what dropped us from living between 700 to 1,000 years down to 70 to 100 years. So when the Anunnaki went to build these pharaohs, they wanted them to live a long time. So into the mix, when they made these, they went to the Tudor group and said, we want to buy some Elven DNA from you folks, from your program. And the Tudor group sold them a bill of goods. They sold them Elven DNA, but what they gave them was Elven DNA that had been hit with a mutagenic during the Elven
Wars.
Aquilian mutagenic war. So that's why all the pharaohs are screwed up, and I mean royally screwed up genetically. And there's really they tried taking and interjecting the DNA from a African American, tribal female, including the mitochondrial. That didn't work. They tried one from the European continent. That didn't work. And the third go around was a Amerindian, from the American continent, a tribal person. They tried that, and that didn't. We don't know how well that worked because the last two kids. We did the revolt then and killed them all off and kicked the Anunnaki off, and those children never even reached 2 years old. So just how badly they might have developed, we don't know. Just how messed up they still were.
And just keep in mind, when you're looking at people like the British Royal Crown family and Rothschilds, Rockefellers and stuff, those are incest, inbreeding families, because they want to keep their DNA, the bloodline going. So you have brothers marrying sisters, cousins marrying cousins. They're very sick individuals.
Well, and the reason for that was they were trying to keep, the long life and all that.
Right.
It's interesting too. I was just looking at some of the stuff like Neil Keegan was talking about and stuff too here, how, I talked to these people that, gold, for example, should be put back into the ground and it's like our shield. And, they go and they start acquiring it, and I thought it was interesting because, Keegan said he was meeting with a Kathy M and then a Racy Dam's right hand, which is interesting. Again, they're doing like a female Illuminati, pseudo.
Here's one of the things that they're doing. they killed Lloyd Pye for bringing this out public.
Right.
This is a orangutan. This is a gorilla. This is a chimp. They're all 48 chromosome triple spiral. This is human. This is what the Anunnaki did. In order to crossbreed us with their hybrid, the hybrids only had 46 chromosomes, where we had 48. So they took the second and third chromosome and fused them together to knock our count down to 46. If you don't have even number chromosomes, you can't procreate.
Right.
That was the point in that.
And what is being done as we see, like, you know, the poisoning of the waters and hurting the people more and more. You know, this is something that they said within these meetings here with these people, that the plan would be still to put a EMP, which is an electrical magnetic pulse attack, on the electricity grid of what they call North America here. And that would include, as people seem to think, like, you know, not only the United States, the West Coast, but Canada, even to Central America. You know, the North American Union.
I don't even bother to talk about that, Karen, because all that is fear-mongering.
I want to bring it up. It's all over the internet right now, so I just wanted to, we could take that down. Yeah.
This is 25,000 years ago, okay? 25,000. This is a DNA sample smuggled out of the Draco slab. This is chromosome 1, and you look how much longer these are than what we have now. This is something they've been doing over a period of time. They're you know, clipping us more and more and more.
Right.
Deliberately. So, I mean, you got to understand, this is not accidental. This is what we have now.
Right.
And look how small these are.
You know, it's interesting as you do things like that, like even when I'm doing stuff on, like, you know, biofeedback and going into some of this.
Look at the mitochondrial.
Exactly.
You know why they had to clip the mitochondrial? Do you know what mitochondrial DNA actually is that only females carry? It is a whole bonus package of extra DNA such that the mother can decide herself, as she's gestating a baby, what changes she wants to make to that child to make it better be able to handle the environment at that point in time. Mm-hmm. That's what mitochondrial DNA does.
As well, that's part of the migration, the tracing through the mother's side, almost like the maternity test as opposed to a paternal test.
So we know who got modified by the Anunnaki because it changed the mitochondrial DNA, and that is hard locked, undeniable. You can't argue with it. Mm-hmm. So we know who did what and when. And have the hard evidence. So,
and if you think of it in terms of Agenda 21, maybe is it chromosome 21 and your self-repair? So there's a lot of things that's actually coming down.
Yeah, what is the 21? The 21st chromosome is the one that does all the repairs.
Yeah.
And it has a library to work with from it's like 17 through 17 onward. That is a record of your build, your as-built, as it's called, in the womb, forward. Anytime it has to do a repair, it goes back and looks at that. That's why it doesn't do a complete repair, because, you know, and you end up with scar tissue and things like that. It's because it doesn't have access to your engineering department. In other words, this is your maintenance department in your body, doesn't have access to the engineering department since they took your third spiral away.
Right.
So all it can do is run you through your build process. And when you look at the series of developmental you go through, a lot of these are not human. They're, you know, you got to understand, Gaia raised the great apes here. They evolved. So the whole thing between, the Darwin argument and the creation argument, they're both right and they're both wrong. Okay? The great apes evolved here. We didn't. And that's what I mean. When you look at the development cycle of a human, until you get to the end, it's not human for the most part.
I know, having been a
There's some other
neonatal.
star races in here that bring in other aspects, but the beginning goes through an evolutionary step here, and that's why you end up with scar tissue, unless you have your engineering department, which is the spiral, the part of the DNA that the Dracos ripped out.
And this is why it's really important for people to have spring water, using essential oils, using organic or superfoods, and not doing anything else on the market. Because what you're doing is you're blocking putting chemicals in here so you cannot develop. If you're totally, I don't want to use the word, screwed up genetically inside, what do you think you produce like a computer program? You know, and this is why we're seeing children's hospitals and stuff like that. I know as a former registered nurse and neonatal up here, I mean, this was ridiculous. I mean, we shouldn't be, if you knew what you were doing, we should not be having any hospitals or children's hospitals. That just shows you how stupid people are getting.
Right.
Of course.
Here's a single shot from chromosome 2 of some of the stuff that they're doing, that they're deliberately screwing you over. That's what Monsanto's doing. They're putting RNA coding into your food, into the genetically modified food, and your artificial sweeteners are the activator for it. Also
Syngenta, DuPont.
Yeah.
And what I'm picking up is lots of stuff too. I'm picking up snake venom on people. They're actually beyond transgendering. They're changing you into another species. So you look like Draco food. You look like food to them.
Right.
Well, it either makes you better food for the Archons, or change your entire DNA frequency profile such that the Dracos can hijack you. Now, we also have, mutated stuff. Panther Project is the name of the whole thing.
At the NCBI, the Human Genome Project.
Yeah.
You know, they're doing cloning, they're doing everything. I mean, I thought it was really funny because, well, it wasn't funny, but I was actually talking, and a friend of mine said his sister was up there making bannock. But she wasn't.
You got to understand who's doing that, who's running that program.
Yeah.
When Clinton got into office, he went to the Dracos and said, look, I want all the information on all the changes you made to us from the get-go. And they told him, no, you can't have it. He said, fine, we'll start our own, we'll figure it out ourselves. Okay? So the whole thing of Clinton claiming he doesn't know about ETs and crafts and all that, that's bogus. Because he's the one that started this. But the person who did the first analysis of DNA, he's employed by Monsanto. He's who's running this program. You really want Monsanto running your gene program?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's not just that. And they're doing this in the food, the water, the air, everything. This is, hormones that they're putting in your air, food, and water to deliberately screw you over.
Right.
And how it changes, the receptors and everything in yourself. And as you see, this is Homo sapiens. This is not animals or anything else. They're targeting you. They're targeting Homo sapiens, humans, by putting it and injecting it in cows and pigs and everything else. With you as a target.
All your meat and dairy products.
Yeah.
And you know what's...
And now they're starting to do it to fruits, too.
Right.
Well, and you know what's up here? I mean, I haven't gone to one place here that's had food. They don't know what food is. And people supposedly think they've been to school or been educated or gone through university, have no conception of what food is. And so, they've got white flour, which is basically Elmer's glue. They use margarine, which is basically plastic. They've been taking BP oil, BP, it might be BP oil, but BP water out of Prince Albert before they, what was the silver lining to this water thing actually was basically is that the people at the water treatment that they were shutting down at North Battleford and Prince Albert is at least some of the people were starting to wake up and not taking this BP water and going towards the springs because they're fluoridating people. So everyone has got a chemical lobotomy up there. They're all mentally retarded with these chemicals put into them. They cannot think properly.
Now, here's what the G20 group, or they call it the G20 group, or the Council on Foreign Relations, or what's their other little group there? I forget the other group they do. They're trying to build their own super DNA, and I just say 1, 2, 3, 3 strands for themselves.
Right.
Now, there's an issue, which you need salmoniac to get around. When you first start trying to put that third spiral back together, you have a charge issue on the 3 poles. All 3 go negative, and they tries to throw it apart. That's what salmoniac or salmac gets around. That's why they don't want you rebuilding your third spiral on your own, but they're perfectly happy to give you a third spiral made of silicone. The problem is Monsanto can't deliver that. That's why they want to give you all these vaccinations.
That was interesting. Speaking of that, I looked after 4 people, an entire family on this reserve that received the H1N1, and they were all deadly sick. All looking like snake venom, all basically looking like would present like, cancer this, cancer that. They're all in pain and everything since the last couple months. On top of it, these people have been illegally and unlawfully renting out and leasing land to farmers for Monsanto on sacred tribal land. And when they put up these, little epitaphs for all the people that were in the residential schools, they're all in upper capital letters, the white letters on the black onyx. That's like an organ generator. And what it does is it draws in negative energy, and that's all the people they intended to kill. So if they were on that list, they're on the assassination list. And these people are so clueless. You try and say, can't you see it? It's a ritual. It's a satanic ritual. This is their satanic temple. This is where they do their satanic rituals. Under the auspices of having a church or an Anglican church. I mean, you can see everything there. I mean,
here's the other change they made. Gastric acid secretion. They changed the whole molecular of acids in your stomach and everything, basically, so you can't break down what you eat into the usable bits you need to put your DNA back together.
Yeah.
That's why it's important to buy stuff already broken down.
And that's why I have people on pre-digested, all fruits right now, fruit drinks, whether it's Bulk Barnet Super Reds or getting Berry Force or something, getting your things broken down, pre-digested, because what you're doing is you're basically taking 30 pounds of superfoods and putting it down into a pound. So all you need is a couple teaspoons, and that's like taking a couple pounds of fruit right away. So, which is more inexpensive than the way these people have been eating. And it's healthy.
Right.
And then again, so is essential oils. But, we were at the same thing at Nestlin, what they call Ness Creek up there. I could see the same thing. I could see the stones. I could see the Anunnaki markings. I can see stuff like this. Most people, they're oblivious to it. And it's like, reading the hieroglyphics, and they wonder why, why don't you want to do a sweat lodge or something up here? Because I run my own lodge, and I help set them up for the women. I wouldn't have these people come into my home. I don't want smokers, drinkers, and a whole bunch of drugs going out. Why would you want to be around 3,000 people that are more ridiculous? Some people have no concept of what, being sacred is, or holding the space, because they're not in that space of love themselves, let alone peace.
We have DNA samples from all around the planet, all these really old ones, like the Lichtensteins. Yeah. They're originals. No haplotype. They're originals.
Null Point Viking, 6 kings. Those are the kings that set up the monetary system for selling women, by the way. That's your bride price. It was the kingdom. That's why we're dissolving it.
Now, the Star Child skulls?
Yeah.
You got to understand, the Star Child are one of the providers to Gaia of seed stock. Look how many haplotypes they match up to.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I mean. Neanderthal DNA is the same as mitochondrial DNA. It's 10 code instead of 9 code. And when you think about it, 9 code, huh? Every human's got 9 code DNA, right?
Right.
and I want to make this blatantly obvious. When you look at coding, where's the graphic I want here? 2 strands, right? There's 2 molecules in each. One code lettering goes to this one, the other one goes to that one. How can you have coding that's an odd number when your DNA sequences are all binary? Does it go to run an instruction to halfway to the middle and then stop?
Because we're trinary.
Yeah, we're trinary. So that whole thing is, that's what I mean. Gaia is, and this is an important fact too. The reason for the change in the cell phone frequencies and in all of your wireless networks and all that is this. This pissed off the New World Order group, the G20, and all those folks, because Gaia is broadcasting this signal. This is mitochondrial DNA sequences. These are 10 code. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Okay?
That's what we're supposed to have.
Yeah, this is mitochondrial DNA. Gaia is broadcasting this to everyone. And it's putting into the mainstream DNA, males and females alike. This is a male, by the way, who's part of the, the G20 group, that they made modifications to the test, because they're trying to go for their own personal Superman edition of human DNA, and this promptly undid it. Got them pretty pissed off, which is why they're, blocking, trying as much as possible to block Gaia's transmission.
Yeah.
People need to realize how these smart meters and stuff are really affecting people. Basically what they're doing, they're giving these people, they've surrounded them with all these towers shooting at them. I mean, my head's been blowing since I got there, and you can see the films that we did previously. I mean, we look like we're just being shot in a microwave. And they're basically giving all these people chemo and radiation. You got to remember, a lot of this doesn't affect some of these Dracos as much. It sure affects some of these, other people.
That's what DNA is supposed to look like. From the molecular standpoint, when it's repaired. The red one is what's missing.
Right.
That's your body's engineering department. Now, just as information is stored in each letter, each molecule of your DNA, and what do I mean by that? Where's my graphic here? I did these graphics up. That's how your DNA currently is put together. This is your guanine, that's your adenine. In each one of these blocks, okay, there's another library in here. That library is like, and this just, the term for it just came to me today. It's your, if you know anything about Microsoft's operating system, it's your dynamic link libraries. It's your DLLs. And what that does, what that information is this. If it runs a bit of code here, when it gets done, it says go to chromosome 2, line 200 or line 600, and then run that. That's your interconnect, your dynamic links. And all of this is supposed to be a Fibonacci harmonic. Now, here's the thing. The government's been monitoring this shit all around the globe, and that is the purpose why they are deliberately releasing radiation.
Right. That
1.00 means that letter has still got all the data in it. Anything less than that, like this T, it's only got 0.0152 worth of data coding in it because it was busted open by a neutron, which is radiation, is free-flying neutrons, smashing it, that DNA link open. Can your body, your 21st chromosome, repair the casing? Yes. Can it put the data back in? No. Only Gaia can do that. And as you see, they have control groups all around the whole freaking planet that they're monitoring just how much damage they're doing. These radiation releases are not accidents. They're deliberate.
And one of the things too, there are a lot of us that know what's going on. Like I said, we've had people, whether there's stuff to do with Max Spires or something, some very strange things with all of a sudden him just throwing up black stuff. You know, I said we woke up actually just about a month ago with 4 injection sites on the ankle. And I just have to show you this one here too. You know, I woke up again too, stuck there. You know,
Got cut off and had to reconnect.
and that is, again, no explanation, injection site, and actually like a hardened thing underneath.
You can still hear me, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's some other stuff they're doing. And again, they're using Monsanto as a delivery agent to deliver the RNA,
Right.
change the build on your DNA. This is arrow here is region containing loci, alternate loci. That means they've taken whole batches of coding and moved it.
Yeah.
The orange dots are places where they've thrown in their own patches to make it change the way it works. And the blue ones, novel patches, that means alien DNA. To screw you over.
One of the things too I want to point out too, when I'm going into some of these areas to also meet with some of these people, someone made a big mistake. Very Henneke and took a rattle and actually went to hit me. I don't think it was actually an accident, but he tried a second and blocked it. That's considered assault. You know what I mean? Some of these people are very little use for women. And he won't be doing that again because these people can be charged international and international courts. You know, this is not tolerated, you know, or touching people. They're not invited, you know, and this is one of the things that they think they can get away with, you know. And again, these Anunnaki or hybrids of them, not going to be tolerated.
This is how it does it. The RNA that Monsanto delivers, every time your DNA splits, it changes the new coding in the 2 new pairs. This is where the change goes down.
Right. Excellent.
That's why you need an activator. You need the RNA can't get in here without the activator, which is like because this is all done chemically.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
That's excellent information. Ton of information. This was supposed to be short, but got to get this info out.
Yeah.
Like I said, there's other issues. I can open any one of these. The red stuff is this is chromosome 3. The red is forward reading DNA that's active and working. This blue stuff here, this is forward reading and not active because this goes from the one pole to the other pole that you actually have. This goes from one pole to the pole you don't have. This code here is reversed, and it's not working either because it's meant to go from your second pole to the pole that doesn't exist. This stuff here is meant to go from the first pole to the third that doesn't exist. It's meant to go from the second pole to the third that doesn't exist. This stuff is the alien shit they've put in there to keep you still being born alive without your third pole.
Right.
This is all alien shit.
Which is what I've been trying to clear with the Skill machine in different sessions I've been doing with people on Skype or remote or Facebook or whatever, phone.
This is repeats. That's how many repeats they had to put in just so that they still, after removing the third strand of your DNA, so that you would still function. They have to put a lot of repeats in, and this is variations.
Pattie, aside from what do you see as sort of the remedy to this? Now, I know you've given it, because Pattie's the only one that has authority to lead basically the international forces and tribal forces. And you have given a go green, but a scorched earth command, basically. So anyone's that's deemed an enemy.
We told them they had to leave. They said they're not leaving. And the New World Order group was saying, we're not giving in. We're going to fight you, and keep killing you until you kill us, basically. So I've given scorched earth. Kill them all. If If they're packing up to leave, fine. If not, kill them. So we're systematically destroying all their bases and killing all of their agents that we can find. The problem is the Silver Legion can't have their ships in our atmosphere because the forces of darkness, shall we put it, the G20, the covert space program folks, the Anunnaki, the Zeta, all those folks, shoot them down. So they have to use big stuff and hit from orbit, like Athena, that did the strike on the South Pole.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And it's been burning a month at least.
Now the Lang, who have no real stake in this game, they're helping us because it's the right thing to do. They get to come down and blow shit up for me. They do a little lot. This is the Lang craft right there.
And a lot of these have been seen.
Secure Team 10 gets them all the time. Gets some really good pictures of the Lang craft.
At least at the University of Saskatchewan here, actually.
Now, people think the Lang are the
Blue Avatar.
but they're not. They are one of the first. The Lang are one of the first races. Once our shield was down, when the Martian Lemurians crashed in us, landed on Atlantis and set up camp there, that broke our shield. From that point forward, people could visit and come down, essentially. So the Lang are one of the first people, not from Earth, that came and visited us here on Earth. And people thought they were the Fae, but they're not.
Fae and fairies. Le Fay, Morgan Le Fay. Getting through the DNA.
I've got a picture of the Lang here somewhere. Right.
Nice blue. There we go.
They're real short. They're not even 3 foot tall. That's the Lang. But they're good people.
Yeah, so when you're watching these videos on YouTube and stuff like that, and you're like thinking, oh, how come nobody's helping us? There's a lot of things going on behind the scenes that you don't even realize. So.
And you can go to 58 Alien Races or whatever, look that up. Patty's also got the Russian book. I mean, this is standard college in Russia. I mean, everyone knows there.
You see these folks, these are the Mantis. These are the folks, the ET race, that the Illuminati or the Rothschilds signed that deal with in Germany. They were only nasty customers, but that's who is fighting on the side of the Rothschilds.
And there's the mater. I want to make a mater. Yeah, it's interesting how, just...
This is a Dracos on Mars.
No wings, so worker.
Yeah, worker. Lower caste.
Yeah.
But if you're wondering if clone is going on, here's another.
They all look the same.
Yeah. Just to give you an idea. I've got another film, but I won't play that on here. That's, I have the actual film of that one I gave you those pictures of.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
They're laying, a whole group of all the rather famous type laying in beds together, all sleeping.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're all clones.
So that's similar to what's going on even with the stasis chambers, right? So why would these clones be kept in stasis, I guess is what some people may ask.
Yeah. Food. The ones that are kept in stasis have their uplink to their true selves removed. They lock in a box, and yeah, they're food for the Archons. I mean, for the tall whites. Look at this. What the hell is that?
This is what they talk about, the little people and stuff too.
Yes. This van is from an alternate timeline. This is one of the ETs that are working with the Nazi group.
Can you show that again?
Huh?
Can you show that again? It's so hard.
Two little hands, yeah, because it's tinted window. Yeah, that's his face, that's his nose, mouth, eye. Two little hands. This van is really weird too, because it wasn't made on this timeline. I did a close-up of it. This is not made by any manufacturer here on this timeline of Earth. So, using rigs like Brookhaven, they brought this through a portal.
That's why stuff like the synchrotrons and the Cern here at the University of Saskatchewan, and all those are deadly. LHCs, colliders.
This looks like a normal van, except for one problem. These are 1-ton hubs, and these tires are only 13-inch. And you can't really see that until you put another van that was built on this timeline beside it. Then things look really, really wrong.
Yeah.
The whole scale of the van's wrong. The tires are too small. There's no manufacturer for this here on this planet. And yet the color scheme is EU. And this photo here was taken in New Jersey. And yet it has United States style plate.
It looks like a Dodge, but then I don't.
It's got a G on the front. Not GMC either. It's got Ford headlights and taillights. GM Chrysler hubs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even the door pattern. This is Chrysler door pattern here. The two doors, the crew cab doors there. That's Chrysler. The grill is Mercedes-ish manufacturer. That's what I mean. It's like a mishmash. This was not made on this timeline.
And we've been able to see different things in different people where we've taken pictures over a couple of days and realized friends of ours have been taken and cloned, or they have substituted different vehicles, or different things have happened. You know, you may not have a memory of some of that, you know.
Oh, yeah, that like this here. This is Dan. That's Dan. That's not Dan.
That's Sergeant Dan. That was the former Sergeant Daniel McClellan.
They tried to get the car close, but it's not even the same car. This is a car on another timeline. And when I, change the lighting on this and zoom way in and see what's going on in the background in there, this is on a military base, and it's not even on this this timeline Earth.
And we actually had people that contact in the desert, so to verify on site what was going on. You can't see someone with longer beard and going gray in 2 days. It doesn't happen.
Oh, these are some good shots I caught when the Blue Kachina was around. You notice the sun lights up the ground but doesn't light up the sky?
Yeah.
They had to shut portions of the sun down to do repairs. So the Blue Kachina was doing stand-in duty. As you see here, this is what it looked like unfiltered. And you can see there's another Exo out there.
These are things that make us go,
This is what the Blue Kachina looks like. You see, the color is wrong. It's a blue. Our sun is classed as a yellow dwarf, really, because it's not very big, but it's not an actual star, whereas the Blue Kachina is an actual star. Our sun is an artificial, it's an artifact built by the ancients for the, transit system. And bear in mind, this transit system map I stole from Harvard, from the Skull and Bones group. The little tabs are where the artificial suns built by the elves sit. We're Saul. That's ours.
I want to bring to people's attention, I don't know if you're comfortable to show it, Patty, but there was a picture of Patty that was taken. Patty wasn't aware of it, but we can actually see lights or things that were behind Patty, which was very interesting. Or I've been somewhere and Andrew can see different things or different colors, or things or orbs and stuff in front of me, which we may not be available to see, or you might feel some energies, but you could clearly see the orbs in front of me, and there was some stuff in front of Patty the other day. Right. So it's very, very interesting to see what's being targeted. Remember, this goes right through the walls. People can walk through walls. It's a Patty Brassard moment.
And that's behind my coffee maker. Behind my Keurig.
So we never know what we're dealing with day to day. When people go, what's coming on? I don't know what I'm doing tomorrow, let alone what we have to deal with today. And that's why it's really important. Once we get things cleaned up and stuff, that's the obligation in the original covenant/treaties is to restore the original governments, which would be with the women of the council appointing their councils.
And I couldn't see that. It was there even after the sunset, because my window's over here. You can see no more sunlight is even coming in my window, and it's still there.
Yeah.
I couldn't see it. I turned around and looked at the wall. I couldn't see it, but they showed up in the cam. Funny stuff.
If you have anything else to add, that's a good place to wrap it up.
That's a good place to wrap it up.
To the viewers, it's great you're watching this and everything, and excellent comments, excellent questions. But share these videos. Go to Project Ascension and share all the videos. Get this information out there. If we don't wake people up, we're doomed.
Here's something you don't see. This is the real Dan, alternate timeline. Military bus with a yellow 1-800 number on it.
And one of the things just to bring to the viewers' attention, we appreciate all the comments and stuff, and I'm getting a lot of stuff. But in fact, I have to open up my third or fourth Facebook thing. Now this one's Karen Lucyk macdonald this week, but also at clanmother13@gmail. So I'm doing a lot of stuff on Skype, and I'm still seeing several people a day because we need to get the education out. This is interesting. Do you want to just, things arrived. There was something that was thrown in one of our friends.
This was at Louisa's place. Something, chucked this across her apartment into her kitchen and bashed the back of it in the middle of the night. Scared the shit out of her and the kids.
So what we want to do is make sure everyone's getting alkalized, getting to the spring water, not taking any kind of treated water whatsoever or bottled water. Go to findaspring.com. I'm getting lots of people, whether it's Young Living, doTERRA, Eden's Gardens, New Direction, something. I love the Eden's Gardens. They've got great labels, so they stay on as a practitioner. Getting the Himalayan salt, getting borax, and I will be bringing some stuff on how to do some raw foods. Otherwise, you can go to Nouveau Raw, look at Love on a Plate or Raw Amazing, or just put in raw foods. We're having to show people that make like hamburgers and garden burgers. I don't spend any time on cooking. So I'll do a couple of those just for people, how to do some quick meals and stuff like that, and stuff for children that you can actually put in, you know, almonds or put in hemp seed and just make milk in 30 seconds. Because you're going to have to deal with what we got on hand. And a lot of this stuff will be stopped down the road. So
here's Athena when she came in and started hitting, you know, for us. Athena is one of the exoplanets. I've got several views of that, including her first strike on the base down there. This is what it looked like when she came in. Nibiru came in and watched when this was going on. They were, you know, seeing what she was doing. Where's the my Kodak moment right there?
yeah, Kodak moments. We have many moments, don't we, buddy?
No.
This is the South Pole, by the way. This is what's been going on for over a month.
Yeah, this is did you say Amundsen Scott, South Pole Station, Dark Sector Labs.
How many people did they rescue?
Huh?
How many people did they rescue?
Oh no, they were down there to destroy people. This wasn't about rescue. This was about destroying the people and the base.
Right. I thought there was somewhere else they were rescuing
The
them.
government was talking about going down there to rescue a sick scientist. Yeah,
Oh, that's what it was. That's what it was. Yeah.
Cover stories.
yeah. See, yeah, they've been blowing up. I mean, that base is huge. It's way bigger than it looks on the surface. And they had a lot of really nasty stuff going on down there.
You got to remember, this is to do with, as Patty talked about, you know, from what Hitler was doing, why they went down there, Admiral Burt. I mean, this ties into everything, the plating, everything she was talking about, too.
If you look at this, that symbol, this is where the island, it started on the Bristol Island, with where this battle started and where they were trying to use this. This is a cloud force formation of a legacy, what's called a builder device.
Yeah.
This one in particular is the Ring of Midas that they were trying to apply there to bring something illegally here to this timeline from an alternate timeline.
Right.
The Ring of Midas. We actually have some statues of that being transferred. Where is it? Oh, right here. The Midas ring. That's it right there. Now, with that ring, it's powerful. It's a legacy device. Also, supposedly, the person who has that and the matching structures built on Earth owns it. So, I mean, by taking that away from them, there's one on Mars too. This is in Kofu, Japan. You know, so we might have taken, and there's one on, as I understand it, there's one on Venus too. So by taking that away from them, we may have actually not only just taken back Earth, actually may have taken ownership of Mars and Venus as well.
Mm-hmm. And we got title to it and beyond.
So that was a really, really, really important battle that went down, and it's still being fought. They're still trying to take that base back. If you go down there and look now, you'll still see explosions and fires and crap because they're still trying to take the base back.
And you got to remember, this is the underground and covers things that you're seeing, like Fort McMurray. What these burns are, because they're chemicals, and they're actually because they're actually underground alien bases and ET bases.
Now, if you look here, this is a laying ship. It's normally upright. This is in its landing position. This is one of the generators that holds the shield over the South Pole. Yeah, they just went and took them out. So, yeah, I mean, here's Athena coming in at night. You can see her up there when she was incoming. And it's nighttime out. You can see the stars and everything. But that's not the sun.
And that's no different than we see things on the runway that are interdimensional and different time zones. And basically, you'll have a plane, and no plane. It's see-through or multiple colors because they're trying to bring through these portals. This was the synchrotrons in Brookhaven is so important to shut down. You know.
Yeah. The Cern crap.
The mind control is phenomenal. Have a little gift of discerning. People need to get off the grid and get self-sustained. You know, like I say, we could have an EMP like a Carrington event, and you could basically blow up this planet. And if this is something that they're intending to do, of course, not that I haven't heard this for years, but you know, remains to be seen. People need to be out of the cities and in a safer thing.
You can see ET craft here. This is, they're in the process now of rebuilding this into a better, blatantly in-your-face ET arrivals terminal now. At this is the Geneva airport. This is interdimensional plane. Just ended up landing at that base on the Horn of Africa in pieces. It was too much stress.
And a lot of these things, I was just down here, you know, there was a jazz festival and a bunch of things down on, you know, the campus here in the Fringe, but I've gone down here and you see these, what people think is innocuous or benign little statues. And in fact, these are actually collectors, like, you know, in front of the Ramey Center, they've got multiple poles and stuff that are basically antenna arrays.
Now, if you look at this plane, there's no run up. It's already off the ground. It's lifting up VTOL. You see, you've got the color distortion in front. You see the shadow, right?
Mm-hmm.
Look at the plane over here. Shadow's going the opposite direction. These two are not in the same time zone.
Wow, I didn't even realize that.
Yeah, Patty's got the eagle eye for this. Patty's the expert, you know. There's no question. You know, finding a deep underground military base, so where the, you know, things that might look like innocuous, like just a farmyard to you, or was, you know, something going on, you know. I'm finding all these things, you know, and they like to put up their Canadian flags or something else. I mean, I was just, I could almost not get over it. I'm watching Canadian flags on supposedly a band or reserve. That tells you about the intelligence there, you know, who's running stuff. You know, and this is the whole thing too. You know, even the stuff with Trudeau and stuff like that. These people are not human.
Yeah.
Illuminati. You know, same thing when you talk about the cabal. The background to the cabal is not a bunch of innocent people.
Yeah. I mean, well, I mean, that's what I mean. Of all, if you take all the people, all the sentient beings walking around on this planet,
Yeah.
okay, we're 30%. Humans are. We're only 30%.
And don't think someone hasn't given a rough idea to what's going on here. Oh my gosh, yeah.
That's the building of the Cern dome. That they put the copper mesh over, so it'll act like a radiator.
Yeah, and so a lot of these like little, you know, statues and stuff are done in copper with things in here that draw in rays, or now they're putting cubes all over Saskatoon, right? You know, the cube, the Saturnalia, the satanic group. Saturn.
Well, that's the thing. What the cube actually is, that's Martian.
Yeah.
The cube is what they're building at Mecca.
Yeah.
Right.
Black.
And that's a Martian bullshit. This is what's currently going into the Cern thing. They've actually put a biohazard thing going into it and everything.
And they've been bringing up dead bodies for months and months in cold storage, for food storage, by the way. There's been a lockdown, media lockdown on that country for 4 months, that area. For the
Brookhaven, the forward time projection chamber, the rear time projection chamber. That's what I mean. This is for, you know, going forward and backward on the timeline, as well as they built in 2 looking glasses into that rig, you know, so they can actually step through as well as go to alternate timelines. So yeah, Brookhaven, needs to be blown up.
Right.
You know,
Yeah,
at this
all these
point.
crucifixes. Chop, chop, chop down.
Brookhaven has the power. The reason why they got to network all these together, Brookhaven has the power that they wanted to get the, Cern up to, but Brookhaven's too small. You can't get a person through Brookhaven. It's too small. So that's what they use all these other cyclotrons on the network to link them up.
There's the caves, the Karen one.
Yeah, the Karen network.
Yeah, just for me.
So that is why they have them all networked together via the cloud. The whole issue of the creation of the web cloud was, to connect these things all together. That's the only reason, because if it wasn't for that, you wouldn't have the cloud.
And one thing I want to make very abundantly clear for more clarity. These pictures that you're seeing are not isolated. We will sit and watch overhead in true time with a live camera and maybe take a couple of these pictures off for evidence.
Yeah.
These are all from live cameras that we've sat there and watched for hours and hours and hours. This is not made up. Okay, so we've been watching them for days or months on and off.
That's the scale of Brookhaven. See how much smaller it is?
Right.
Tiny. But it has the power and the ability to do things.
Yeah.
Now, when you start talking about that, the whole issue with the crap that went down in Italy,
In the tunnel.
the tunnel. Where is it? I know I have it out here somewhere.
And just in the bottom right there, you saw something with a bunch of pink. Those were actually all depleted morgues. They're frozen morgues and mortuaries that encompass basically miles and miles and miles.
Here's the important thing about that whole Goddard tunnel. This is what they don't show you. They're building cyclotrons into there.
Yeah.
Atlas, CMS. This whole tunnel network is so that they can bring entire train loads of ET troops in. That's what that's about. And anybody that's ever seen Jodie Foster movie Contact, this thing in the back, that's the Looking Glass. Made much bigger, but yeah, that's what the Looking Glass equipment looks like. So yeah, they slap you in the face with this stuff.
Right.
It's
I've
like
actually used scuffed it on the camera and got the control panel inside the new Goddard tunnels. It says right there, Goddard. Right there. Yeah, they're rigging this to turn it into an actual portal eventually. Now, when you look at the way they build the rails, you'll notice they have them so they can take them right out in a heartbeat and install the magnetics. Why is that opening?
And maybe what I'll do just briefly before we go to Patty is do the 13 different, the back tunes and the time and the star seeds and what tribes do. So that's very clear to what's left to some of the tribes, Indians, or the people I'm having to deal with in these areas. So they have a clear understanding of what we're doing here and the law.
I just want people to see that, and then
Please, if you can do that.
that's I want
I
people
have
to
no
see.
idea if you could ever access with Patty's brain.
You see this here? This picture here? That's one of the high-speed magnetic trams. So is this. They connect the DUMBs.
Deep underground military base.
You see this design? Let me close some of these out. I got too many open. That's the same as the death tunnels that that they've built. The same exact design. That's why they had that whole big Saturn ceremony, and then there was all the rads and everything, and they tried to kill off a whole bunch of people.
Yeah,
it's the same design. These rails will come out in a heartbeat, and they can switch it over to do maglev. And what do you think? The cyclotrons are. They're a tube surrounded by magnets. Nominally, with a cyclotron, it's to keep everything, high speed going down the middle. But bear in mind, you can use that to open a portal. If you do that in a tunnel like this, you can move whole train loads of people through.
Right.
This is what they don't show you about that whole tunnel system. They don't show you they're built in the loops.
And this was not something that, was just started yesterday. This has been something, and Patty will show you the different times and when the religion came in and star seeds were done.
I got their schedules and everything else.
You can't hide from Patty on this planet. It's impossible. N'est-ce pas?
Go ahead with what you're going to say, Karen. So
I'm just going to have Patty just go a little bit through the backtones, through the things, because it's really imperative. I'm dealing with a lot of different people, again, assuming that they think they're Indian and tribal, and they're not. And people think, Indian country and stuff, they're not. They're not even supposed to be here. A lot of these are Rh negative hybrids or aliens. They may look like they're Redskin or Indians, and they're like clones. They have a partial memory, which is why, it's like dealing with the workers, basically. But there's that one in there, too, that we've got, again, there was 13 different things. This has been planned for a long time. We're having to step in and see.
Okay. Here's the thing. There's a couple of factors about tribal blood. Bear in mind, Homo sapiens is tribe, and then there's the clans. Okay, The tribes are like the groundskeepers, keeper of the peace, keeper of the treaties, keeper of the planet.
Yeah.
We weren't supposed to interbreed with the clans, although in time that did happen anyway. But here's the thing. All of us tribe folk, we're all related. This is the Clovis folks, okay? And we can track this via, not just blood work, but also DNA, okay? And here's one of the things about tribes. We have special blood types that are not a part of anything else. So when it comes down to it, like me, I'm RZRZ. O positive RZRZ. And I am right here. This orange line right here.
And I'm one of the only ones left. And that has.
You're actually a mix of two. You're a mix of. You're mixed in with the North European ones that don't exist anymore, because the Tudor group wiped most of them out.
I'm just so special.
This is the recording of history. This is the star seeding when the 12 of the 15 races that Gaia raised here provide the seed stock to Gaia to make humans. Okay? These are original pyramids, most of which the important ones blew up when the Martian Lemurians landed on Atlantis, built their little rig there, tried to take over and run the Merkaba and blew it up, sunk Atlantis and Mu. And then when they swam ashore, the Anunnaki showed up. And then they stole the data from Stonehenge to start building these stupid pyramids. They're the ones that got all the Egyptian shit all over the inside of them. This is when the Christian religion was started by the Tudor group, using some facts from the Templars. Now, the Templars were the group of people who were given legacy tools or builder tools to fight the jinn. Okay? That's what the Tudor group perverted into the Christian religion. That's the basis of it. Now, there's one group of ETs from the last class that graduated off of Earth prior to Gaia bringing humans through from her lab where she created the 12 prototypes. And that's this group here. You see the Buddhist monk here. A bunch of about 10,000 plus of those stayed behind, camped out of Shangri-La with Gaia's permission. They kind of mentor the Buddhist monks and whatnot, but they do not interfere with anything here on Earth. That's all they do.
And that's one of the things I just want to point out. There's a lot of people that are not practicing the original custom usages and law. So technically, when I'm off to Anglo, I suppose we wouldn't use the same European, but a lot of this, there are people that are practicing other people's customs, usages, and laws that are not their own genetic.
Now here's AD 830, when all these different, fake religions, Muslims, Christian, all the rest, that's the holy wars. They got in a fight with each other. Now this here represents, the Islam and all of that, and the Tower of Babel and all that, when they were trying to make what words come out of your mouth not match your intent, so you can't do anything magical. And two of the Draco's sons who were fighting over who's going to run Earth for the next little while got in a fight. And one of them tossed a thermal nuke at the other, and of course the other one was standing at the Tower of Babel. The glass crater is still there, folks. That's the first bomb ever blown up on Earth. So, everybody, talks about, the U.S. starting that whole thing. Well, guess what? Although we tested some sooner, 3 days before we dropped the bomb on Hiroshima, the Japanese fired their own bomb on the island off the south of Japan. Their program was being run out of out of the Philippines, out of a cave, which is why the Russians went and took over the Philippines when we shut that war down, because they went and stole all the Japanese nuke stuff. But it was Hitler that gave all the materials and everything to Japan, told him to make me a nuclear bomb, because he already knew about it from talking to the ETs.
Right.
It's interesting how there's a lot of stuff too around the Black Sea, what people think is Russian, like where my ancestors and stuff were in those areas. It's interesting. That's also where a lot of the stasis now are being shown and being revealed right now too. They're in the stasis chambers ready to come alive. They look like they're dormant, just sleeping, breathing.
Here you go. Hitler, who's this? We've known about ETs for a very long time. This is another chart that shows the stuff that the Dracos did. All the other groups that the Dracos tried to make their own edition of humans that would be perfect slaves to do what they want to do and easily controlled. The last of that group, which is not listed on here, is Neanderthal. Neanderthal was so big, so smart, and so much with it, that he escaped from the Dracos entirely, went through the gate, and took over other timelines. Entirely. The Dracos tried 5 different prototypes, humans, trying to make an edition of them, for themselves, to, have as slaves, and they were all abject failures. They were all bigger, stronger, faster than humans were. The last one was, before Homo Cro-Mag, was the Homo Neanderthals, and they were a failure too. They still were too big, too strong, too smart. So the Dracos hunted them down and killed them all. But we do have some remains of these guys. So after they removed our third spiral, that's what we got now, almost. And they did that via artificial insemination. You can't put anything in to remove a third spiral and all the DNA and have it go out via sperm and ovum. You have to do it, modify sperm and ovum, put them together, artificially implant it, get the mother to gestate it. And you have to do that consistently to get that third spiral going.
And you were saying about 80%? 80% are actually in vitro military implantations now?
Yeah. I mean, what's going on now, yeah, most of it's done by military, not ETs.
My lab.
Getting abducted and sent back, yeah. This is the document dated 1617 when the Dracos made a deal with the queen of the Tudor group at that time and the queen of the Fae. Morgan Le Fay was the first queen of Ireland. She was a half-breed human elven, and she was 600 years old when she signed this in 1617. This is the deal that started the kickoff of the human Dracos hybrid program.
That's the Bear Clan. That's part of my stuff in there. That's why we've ended their contract.
They usurped the clan mother's right. And so, because Morgan Le Fay didn't have any rights to be scientists.
Yeah. So we're taking our stuff back.
So what's worse, they had males in the posts. That's bullshit. That's, and not just one. They had them 4 faces all around the poles. Wrong. I'll show you what a real one looks like, because if you look at my heraldic for my family, it shows what that's supposed to look like.
And again, you can do your saliva with an mtDNA test, and everyone's always asking me where. Go look it up. It's a saliva test. It's like instead of a paternity test, go look it up. Mitochondrial mtDNA.
Now, when you look at this, there's no other, and they're just females. This one is the clan mother of the tribe. Here, that's the 13th clan mother. That's all it's supposed to be ever on those posts.
That'd be me.
You see, this is mine. There's no honors or anything above. Now, my great-great-grandmother was the Fern mother from France. And her crest looks a little different.
It's really important people see that Freedom Team thing. This is not Pattie's, just whatever. Pattie actually led the Freedom Team for the U.S. Army into Stargate.
As you can see, this is hers, and she has a blue star above, because she was an actual clan mother. Point blank. And she was granted heraldic crest that she used to escape France alive, because the Tudor group was basically killing off all the tribes at that point. This is the crest she got out of Europe, landed in Nova Scotia. She took this name, made it up out of whole cloth, Beaujour. If you translate that, it means Fern mother. And the Halifax disaster, she lost most of her family, and that's when she married into the brassard clan, who have been protectors of the clan mothers anyway.
And that's part of when they refer to the Freedom Team or the Freedom Train.
No, the Freedom Team is military. Karen, come
Right,
on.
no, I'm just saying.
That's and what we didn't, when that's what they called it when we went over there, but that's not what we were over there for.
No, I realize.
That's why it pisses me off. The whole thing with the Freedom Team was to go over there and rate it for ET high-tech equipment, gold, grab up Saddam's looking glass equipment, and powered artifacts. Well, that's not it. And yes, I was there.
I want that clear. People are just starting with us. We both come with credentials, and
I was part of the first group in what we were called Desert Shield, not Desert Storm, but Desert Shield. Because when we first went over there, we weren't even allowed to touch Saddam. Okay, and they said if we shot his ass, we would be court-martialed. So there's a lot of just plain bullshit about what that whole thing was about. It's not what they talk about at all. Bullshit.
That would be good material for another video.
Yeah.
absolutely.
Go
Here's
ahead.
the star disk. Yeah.
Go ahead and give your Facebook, Patty, and other info.
Okay. This is the star disk. This is important. This was made in 640 BCE. This is the treaty agreement between the 13th clan mother and the first queen of the Tudor group. It's had a definite length. There was 4 segments to this treaty, which ended in September 2013.
Right. That I filed in
And the Tudor group violated every tenet of this treaty anyway.
to the Hague Court and all the international courts and star nations and U.S. everywhere.
When you look at this, they knew the Dracos were going to swap the poles of the Earth because it's reflected on the star patterns, because that's what that disk is. That star patterns, you hold it out at arm's length and compare it to the stars in the heaven for alignment.
Pole shift.
They knew about the pole shift, that the Dracos were going to do it and everything, because they built it into that stone back in 640 BCE. So Gaia's in the process of putting that back now, and again, there's this video out on the web where they talk about building this something or other up at the North Pole to stop the pole shift and all this and that. Well, let's put it this way: anybody that tries to build something like that, I'll see that it gets blown up. Gaia's putting the pole back to where it was originally for a reason.
Right.
Anybody who tries to stop that dies. Period.
And that's a great thing to end.
This is where the original South Magnetic Pole was, right here. And you can tell all the legacy structures built by the Martian Anunnaki Zeta Coalition are all in a 100-mile swath around the whole planet, with the original South Magnetic Pole as the center point.
Tigers.
So about 100 miles north of Tagish Lake in Alaska. That's what she's in the middle of moving it back to. Here's a close-up view. Tagish Lake is right here, the lower peg. That's the center point right there. There really isn't anything there to give it a name, which is why it says unknown, because there's no city or mountain range or anything there. The whole point is, when you look at things from the standpoint of energy coming in and where the ley lines sit, you get a big disk around here, and that big disk overlays ley lines. And those ley lines are what puts power into the crust of the Earth for humans with their restored DNA to manipulate their own environment. And they don't want that.
Excellent.
They don't want us having our gifts back. Because let's put it this way. We get our gifts back. We get our third spiral back. We could look at the Dracos and cause their body to physically come apart at the molecular level and turn them to a pile of dust and some fluid.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want that. That's why the Dracos removed our third spiral to begin with.
Which is why they used to cut the blood. Check who was naughty and nice, and if you were part of the blood tribe.
Here's the original equator line. Also, the axial tilt would be less, which means milder climate and all that. And this equator line being there is why Egypt used to be a fertile valley.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, thank you, Andrew, for your time and generosity, and for Pattie's generosity and stuff tonight. We really appreciate it. Everyone's been pushed to the max right now. We've both been.
This is a scan of Earth. You can see the molten core, where the bases are at the poles, and this one off here. Guy has put kind of a glob off there to do a gentle imbalance in Earth, which has got us wobbling like crazy. I got a plot of that too. But she's doing that deliberately to do this pole shift in a very gentle manner. So, I mean, everybody thinking the pole shift is going to, destroy everything. Well, it's not. And it's well underway anyways. This is the North Pole one. It's like that. It's like way up over here already. It was originally here. It's now off the South American continent entirely, over the water now. So, and it's accelerating. So, yeah, it's well underway.
Right. Go ahead and give your info heading. PATTIED-FINE at Comcast.net. And Pattie L. Brassard. Again, it's Pattie's PATTIE, not a Y. Pattie L. Brassard, BRASSARD, at Facebook. Alrighty. And we'll continue bringing you more updates when they come in.
Mm-hmm. And for mine, just to let you know again, it's Kieran Lucyk, LUCYK, macdonald, MACDONALD, or clan with the 13 at Gmail with the K.
Right.
For sessions and healing. Yeah. Or consultations, appointments.
Alrighty. And we will be back. Take care.